We are following the breaking news of the day. A jury has found former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby guilty of perjury. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is on standby live in Greenbelt with the very latest. Yesterday's meeting on juvenile crime in Annapolis leaving more questions than answers. The calls for change. Fox 45 News is hearing from a former state senator. And several lawmakers are calling for TikTok to shut down over concerns the platform is spreading pro-Hamas content. Coming up later, we'll have a live report from D.C.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Do you plan to appeal this?
I want to say to the people of Baltimore and the state.
I'm blessed. I have nothing else to say.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby not addressing the media after she was found guilty of 2 federal counts of perjury, only saying that she is blessed. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you so much for staying with us. The verdict in her perjury case comes just one day after it was handed over to the jury. Let's go straight to Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost. She was at the courthouse all day long, joins us live now with everything that happened in the courtroom today. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, verdict was delivered after about 6.5 hours of the jury discussing this case. They got it yesterday afternoon, just after 4:30. And this entire verdict comes after 3 days of this trial. We had expected this trial to last up to the possibility of 3 weeks. And now here we are at the end of week 1 with a verdict. And if you remember, Marilyn Mosby facing those 2 counts of perjury, all stemming from a box that she checked when she withdrew money from her retirement account, claiming she suffered an adverse financial consequence stemming from the pandemic. And she says that it's all because of her travel business, Mahogany Elite Enterprises, that she launched while she was city state's attorney. She said the lost revenue from the pandemic devastating the travel industry was why she believed she qualified. Throughout this case, however, the prosecution outlined very detailed financial documents from Marilyn Mosby, talking about how she made more money in 2020 than she did in 2019. And the prosecutor is telling the jury she withdrew that money because she used it for down payments on her 2 Florida vacation homes. We also heard audio recordings from Marilyn Mosby that she made to Nationwide, asking how she could access her money, almost sounding panicked in one of the phone calls coming just days before the CARES Act expired. So now we are all awaiting what will happen when it comes to sentencing. It's unclear when that sentencing will take place, but remember, she still faces more charges, so this isn't over. Mary?
All right, Mackenzie Frost reporting live outside the courthouse for us tonight in Greenbelt. Thank you. Mosby's federal perjury trial is over, but she still has more legal battles ahead. She is also facing 2 charges of making false statements on a loan application. We do not have a trial date for those charges yet. Defense attorney Kurt Nachman says that case should be easier for the government to prove.
It's a very paper-intensive case, and it's literally whether or not you're going to check the box as to whether or not you know, when you go through and you sign it. You're a lawyer, you know, as a defendant, so you're presumed to read and understand contracts and documents. It's a much easier case for the government to prove, and so now her defense team has really got to circle up and figure out what direction they're going to take this from here and whether or not they're going to approach the government for a global resolution on these cases.
Trust Fox 45 News to bring you the latest. We will have more coverage throughout this evening and online at foxbaltimore.com, of course, on the news at 10 tonight. Lawmakers returned to Annapolis yesterday to talk about the juvenile crime crisis impacting people across our state. It was the second of 3 meetings the Judiciary Committee has planned before session starts in January. But now many are crying out for help, questioning if there's even time to wait. Our team of reporters looking into the calls for change across the state. Jeff Abel speaking with a former state senator who says he is troubled by yesterday's meeting. But our team coverage begins with Maxine Stryker. She has a closer look at just how long lawmakers can wait to take action.
Well, one political expert I spoke with says people really have no choice but to wait until lawmakers return to Annapolis for the next session. And in the meantime, it's likely many more will fall victim to juvenile crime.
The clock has been ticking as juvenile crime continues impacting communities across Maryland.
They need to stop making excuses. They need to start locking these kids up. They need to change the laws.
It was September 13th. The State House Judiciary Committee first met to examine if the juvenile justice reforms passed last year are doing more harm than good.
If a crime clearly has occurred, we should allow our officers to take action, and it's frustrating to the community that we cannot.
Head of the Department of Juvenile Services, Vincent Schiraldi, touted the decline in crime among Maryland's youth as lawmakers questioned whether the statistics are accurate. But after 5 hours of questioning, there was no commitment to change. Yesterday, November 8th, the committee met yet again.
Unequivocally, the state is failing those children. Do you see the juvenile system as a benefit? And where are the holes that are causing these children to repeat offend, sometimes multiple times on the same day?
Delegates questioning the Maryland Fraternal Order of Police, the Juvenile Justice Monitoring Unit, and the Juvenile Justice Reform Council on young repeat offenders often let off the hook due to their age with no consequences.
I don't want kids getting arrested on back-to-back days, and we should be responding to them.
But just in that time between committee hearings, Fox 45 has reported on a number of juvenile crimes. November 2nd, police say a 12-year-old boy used a gun to rob a 31-year-old man of his bike. He was arrested and charged with armed robbery and taken to the Department of Juvenile Services. But within hours, he was released. And within 48 hours of his release, court documents show he was locked up again and charged with 2 more armed robberies. That same November day, police say a Baltimore woman was assaulted and robbed by 2 juveniles, the youngest 12 years old. Both released within hours from DJS.
The horrificness of youth crime is what's scaring a lot of people. The fact that it's so brazen.
December 5th, the committee will return for a 3rd hearing in Annapolis, but with each passing day, the crisis could grow worse. Political analyst John Deedy says people may have no choice but to wait.
Citizens are going to have to wait because the legislature just doesn't want to do special sessions, and the governor can call them. The governor hasn't shown a sense of urgency to call a special session.
And he says even once lawmakers return to Annapolis for session, the clock will still be ticking as people wait and see if any real change to the laws on the books may come.
It's not just getting a law passed, it's getting enacted, signed in the law, and then the process of the law taking place and being enforced. And that's where a lot of times these things take so long, and where for a lot of citizens they feel there's a lack of sense of urgency.
At that next hearing in December, the committee says they will hear how other states across the country are addressing juvenile crime. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Many crime victims are also demanding Maryland lawmakers take action to stem the soaring rate of juvenile crime. One Annapolis insider telling Fox 45 why he thinks lawmakers have been slow to react. Our Jeff Abel has that story.
It sent every message that you don't want to send to your kids.
Former State Senator Jim Brochin was stunned when he watched this video of an attack on a woman in Butchers Hill. But perhaps what was more stunning was the news that the 2 juveniles responsible were captured and released just minutes after the attack.
What did the 14-year-old learn from the whole experience? That I can do whatever I want, and then I get to go home 2 hours later.
Brochin, who for 14 years served on the Senate's Judicial Proceedings Committee, was also troubled by the reaction in Annapolis by the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services.
He thinks this is okay. It's not.
To lawmakers who seem to be taking a backseat approach to a front and center problem.
Nobody wants to roll up their sleeves as of this moment, minus the last 20 years, and do the hard work that it takes because there's no votes out of it. Governor Moore has to stand up and say, the buck stops here.
Brochin complains that juveniles are repeatedly released because the state has no adequate way to hold them accountable, unlike other states which offer intensive diversion programs which are credited with reducing the rate of recidivism.
You're going to a facility and you're going to be educated, you're going to go into group therapy, you're going to go into individual therapy, and then you're going to have sessions with the victim, that woman who was laying on the street, who got her brains beaten in and her purse stolen, and you're going to sit down with her, and she's going to explain to you how it felt to be victimized the way you did, and you're going to understand those consequences.
To ensure accountability, Brochin says Maryland must implement these programs and reverse reform laws, which the legislature passed 2 years ago. And while lobbyists are already pressing lawmakers to stay the course, Brochin insists voters must have the final say.
And the best thing that can happen is the residents of Baltimore City just keep contacting their delegates, keep contacting their senators, and saying, you know, victims and victims' families have rights also.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to contact them about public safety legislation, their phone numbers and email addresses are there on your screen.
Fox 45 News is following breaking news out of West Virginia, where Senator Joe Manchin has announced he will not run for re-election. His decision will test the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. Manchin, who's 76, his departure creates an opportunity for the GOP to pick up a Senate seat. Democrats currently hold 51 seats to the GOP's 49. 2024 was already shaping up to be a tough election cycle for Senate Democrats. The party will be forced to defend 23 seats compared to 10 seats for Republicans. Montana Senator Steve Daines, who chairs the Republican National Senatorial Committee, released a statement minutes after Manchin's announcement saying, quote, "We like our odds in West Virginia. Right now it's unclear what Manchin will do after he leaves Capitol Hill."
I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at the calls to ban TikTok in light of the reported spread of pro-Hamas content.
And the planner overnight looking like we could clear out a little bit through the early evening, but then the clouds move back in as colder temperatures move in as well. I'll let you know when rain is going to be back in the forecast, and a chilly one at that. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News continues our coverage on the war in the Middle East. Top left, the White House announced today that Israel has agreed to move forward with daily 4-hour pauses of military operations in northern Gaza. Experts say the move will allow more humanitarian aid to enter the Strip and allow more innocent civilians to flee. Top right, Israel's prime minister is maintaining that there will be no ceasefire without the release of hostages held by Hamas. Officials say Hamas hasn't put forward any viable proposals on any hostage release. Bottom left, Israel has claimed its forces captured a Hamas stronghold in northern Gaza after a 10-hour battle. IDF officials say they captured weapons and uncovered hidden tunnel shafts. And bottom right, a United Nations emergency relief chief is warning that the war could spread. During a news conference today, that official reiterated the UN's calls for a ceasefire, saying that war is a virus, and if it doesn't stop, it could consume the region. Meanwhile, calls to ban TikTok are growing amid the reported spread of pro-Hamas content on the platform. Some lawmakers are blaming the popular app for young American support for Hamas. National correspondent Janae Bowens has the story.
What we should do is ban TikTok, period.
Republican presidential hopefuls raising concerns about the reported anti-Semitic and pro-Hamas content on TikTok, equating it to Chinese spyware and vowing to ban it if elected.
TikTok should be banned because they are poisoning American minds.
Leaders on Capitol Hill are pushing to do the same, highlighting a Harvard CAPS poll that shows 51% of Americans between the ages of 18 to 24 believe the Hamas killing of Israeli civilians can be justified by the grievances of Palestinians.
They use it as a news aggregator. And if you look at what is trending on TikTok, if you look at the volume of pro-Hamas, frankly, pro-genocidal content.
An Axios report shows posts with hashtag Stand With Palestine has hundreds of millions of more views than posts with hashtag Stand With Israel.
It could become the dominant news platform in America, is controlled by a Chinese company that is at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party.
Senator Josh Hawley called on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. to take action and wants the Senate to pass his bill that would ban TikTok.
That is a backdoor for the Chinese Communist Party into the private lives, movements, and data of every American who has it on their phone. And there's nothing in our laws that protect that.
His bill was rejected by fellow Republican Senator Rand Paul.
A ban on TikTok is what they do in China. You're worried about Chinese communism and Chinese authoritarianism, and you want to ban speech in our country?
TikTok refutes claims that they are pushing pro-Palestine content over pro-Israel content, and they say recent data analyses are false. They also say they've removed millions of fake accounts, videos, and comments that violate their policies, including content promoting Hamas.
And Janae, are there any new bipartisan efforts when it comes to banning or at least regulating TikTok?
Well, there is a new bill aimed at stopping terrorism and disinformation on social media, and a bipartisan coalition is calling on the Justice Department to require TikTok to register as a foreign agent because they say China is using TikTok as a propaganda machine to influence Americans and collect data. Mary?
All right, Janae Bowens live for us in D.C. Thank you so much.
The next weather maker is now moving through. You see some showers east and down to Trapp and Denton. That is a band of rain that's associated with a cold front that is going to be bringing us some much cooler air. The rain is moving away, so that's good. Unless you're on the eastern shore, most of the roads are beginning to dry out. St. Louis southbound, yep, that's another round of rain, and there's a lot of it. I don't think it's going to be the heaviest of the rain that gets here, although south of the city it might get a little heavier. That'll be here for tomorrow, and that's as cooler air sets up. Right now, winds out of the west-southwest at 6 with 64 and mostly cloudy skies reported here in Baltimore. And the Mile 1 Towson that is, with the humidity at 84%. Still a good deal of cloud cover. But we may see some patchy clearing as we head through the early overnight hours as the temperatures are still generally in the 60s. There's the cooler weather. There it is, yes. From Cumberland westbound, temperatures falling through the 50s and into the 40s. So say goodbye to the warmer air as that system moves south and east. Cold front out of here. And it looks like rain, unfortunately, yes, does move in as a disturbance rides up that cold front as it settles down into the Carolinas. We'll be close enough to get some of those showers for tomorrow. Look at this, even some snow potentially after all this warm weather in the mountains of West Virginia. So that shows you how cool that weather is going to be. It's going to be a clammy, nasty day for tomorrow. And then Saturday, drier air moves in, but it also looks like the cooler air is going to be staying. Temperatures falling from the 60s into the 50s overnight tonight. We will see again some patchy clearing through about midnight, but quickly it looks like the clouds will fill back in as that next disturbance moves up the Ohio Valley, and it looks like the rain gets here by about 7:30 through about 9:15 in the morning tomorrow through lunchtime. By the time you're picking up the kids from school, still at least some light rain possible. After about 3-4 o'clock, that does move south and east and away, and the cooler air and drier air sets up for the weekend. 46 isolated showers again, most of those moving out now, but some more late night tonight. Lots of clouds, much cooler, rain and drizzle tomorrow with a high only 52. I'm going to let you know how long the rain stays and when it's finally going to move out, and cooler, drier weather moves in and how long it lasts in my Weather Authority exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Parts of the Northeast got their first taste of winter this morning. Light snow fell from New York State to here in Portland, Maine. Just before the flakes started flying, Maine was treated to a fantastic sunrise. Among the factors in creating these magnificent colors, low humidity and clean air. And early risers may have caught a bright Venus and crescent moon meeting in the sky.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
In tonight's Assignment America, Seattle area synagogues are on high alert after 4 congregations received a suspicious package containing a white substance. It comes amid a significant rise in anti-Semitism all across our nation. Leanne Nguyen from our Sinclair sister station in Seattle has the story.
As a precaution, I put on the mask and gloves. when they opened up the box and I saw it was exactly that kind of letter. I called the police.
For the fourth time in less than a week, Seattle police were called to a local synagogue, this time in the Bryant neighborhood. On Friday, 3 synagogues reported receiving similar suspicious packages or letters containing documents and some having a white substance inside which was determined to be non-hazardous. Both locally and nationwide, the Anti-Defamation League has seen a dramatic rise in reports of anti-Semitic incidents.
At a national level, we've seen an increase of almost 400% since October 7th, and I would say at a local level in Seattle and Washington, we've had dozens of reports of anti-Semitic incidents come in, whereas the same period last year, we might have had like 10 or 15 in a 3 or 4 week time period.
Both local and federal authorities are investigating, and we're told the case could be elevated to federal charges.
Could apply federally because it's being used through the U.S. mail system, and that is a U.S. system, so of course U.S. laws would apply.
But in addition to the letters, there have been numerous other reports as well.
We've also just been seeing vandalism on the streets in Queen Anne. We've been getting reports of Jewish institutions, being threatened or being targeted with vandalism. So the kind of anti-Semitic actions that we've seen have really run the gamut.
The FBI says they're continuing to monitor any potential threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities and sent out this bulletin last month urging people to remain vigilant in light of recent calls from terrorist organizations to target the Jewish community.
Exclusive 10-day forecast. A cooler day for tomorrow. Rain and drizzle, so umbrellas out and heavier jackets. Veterans Day looks good. Saturday, 56, but chilly. Fall chill for the Ravens game on Sunday, 51 for a high. Warming to near 60 by the middle of next week. Could see a shower or two on Thursday, and that could last Friday, Saturday. But into next weekend, highs warming to near 70 before cooling to the low 60s by Sunday.
Well, finally tonight, the first Inner Harbor swimming event in decades is happening, they say, next year. The Waterfront Partnership of Baltimore says it has worked to make the harbor swimmable by 2024. They say with the help of the iconic Baltimore trash wheels, the water in the harbor has shown major improvements. Because of that, the organization is now hosting Harbor Splash 2024, which is set to happen next June. Now, city officials say they expect a large amount of skepticism, you can maybe hear it in my voice, surrounding the event, but they say they hope to host even more events in the Inner Harbor in the next couple of years. They even want to build a beach down there. We'll see. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud is next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.